Hey, welcome to the CrossFit 310 QuickPod. My name is Kris Germain, and I am with the famous Jen McMahon via her studio at home. Hi, Jen. Welcome to the QuickPod.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
No problem. You're normally sitting right next to me, and I just go, hey, it's me and Jen. But during these times, me and you are going to go Zoom, and we're thankful to be able to do it. I love it. We've got something to talk about today. It is mid-December, and we want to give something valuable, a conversation valuable for our people here at CrossFit 310, and then anybody that might come across this thing. What are we doing in December, in this really weird year, in this really weird time, where everything, December's weird anyway, but this year's, it's weirder and weirder. My guess is we're going to be tempted to cope in lots of different ways, and some of it will be good and some of it will be bad, but we're going to talk about some choices that we can make and some ambitions that we have from mid-December through the first of the year and into this great new year that's coming up.
For sure. I'm ready.
Well, cool. If it's okay, I'd like to kind of ask you questions as our health coach at CrossFit 310. You just have so much knowledge. It's at your fingertips all the time. This is what you do every day. You are talking to somebody about health, and not just working out, not just food, but health in general. Can you kind of just give me your take on the end of the year? Like, what do you see? What do you, as you know that this time is coming, how do you see this, and what do you like to do with people now?
That is a very good question. I mean, really, truthfully, I deal with everybody where they are. So I'm not sure that I really have like an answer that kind of fits everybody in general, but
Yes.
this time of year impacts people in such different ways. Some people are really emotional this time of year. Some people really love this time of year and look forward to this time of year. And both of those things can lead to bad habits, right? Like emotional eating or even sharing of eating. And I mean, there's just a lot of sugar around this time of year, and I think everybody is eating it. So I think it's just important for people to keep in mind, like just their healthy rituals in general. Like don't forget, I mean, it's colder outside. There's more junk food around, but don't forget the basics. Like, don't forget to drink your water. I mean, I think it's easier to forget your water when it's cold outside for some reason for people. They don't feel as thirsty. So little tips and tricks just like that, I think can make a world of difference versus like eating your way through the day instead of kind of staying hydrated and just being aware, that kind of thing. Yeah. I also like to talk a lot about habits and rituals, as you know, but I think it's also important to just be intentional. Like, what is it that you want from the day versus letting the day kind of take over you? And that can happen to people a lot too, especially around this time.
That's great. Do you find December and January to be high alert months, so to speak?
I think they can be. I think it can depend a lot on people's goals. So if someone really wants to lose weight, this time of year tends to be harder for people to do that. I don't think it has to be that way. I always like to tell people that it's not typically the birthday parties and things like that that make us gain weight. It's the repeated behaviors over and over again. And I think that's one of the reasons that December is hard, is so some of those behaviors happen all month long versus on like one special day. So I think if you can kind of, to avoid massive deprivation and feeling like you're not getting what everybody else around you is having, have some of this stuff. I think it's just important to make it not part of your everyday life right now. So
Yeah.
Like I try, like my kids are super into baking right now. They love making cookies and things like that. So having it around the house can be very challenging.
Yeah.
So
That's the hardest thing. I feel like the hardest thing about December started back in October.
yes,
It's
candy.
that's right. It's just that we have more things just right at our fingertips all of the time. And it starts there. And then all of a sudden Thanksgiving is here and there's just more pie. There's more, there's more.
Yeah.
It's just part
Just
of
like
our
gluttony
culture.
just like comes in. Yeah.
Yeah. And so you've got leftovers available all the time. There's just, you have, there's just more things. So it starts way back in October, November, and December are treacherous from that standpoint. I truly think it's much bigger deal for me because it's just around. And darn it, I'd love to snack. It's so fun to grab something, you know what I mean? Something that tastes good and it's small and you're just like, that's perfect. It is so much more up my alley than a giant meal. I don't usually just stuff. I'm much better at just snacking all. Thanksgiving is like it's over for me by like mid-afternoon because I've just snacked all day. And so I have this I have this very simple meal by the time the turkey gets there. I like the snacks. So, yeah, like I feel that thing that you were saying. Well, one of the things that we really wanted to talk about is habits today. And the reason I'm very interested in talking about this with you is I know that even, just in our talks, like we spend time in the office together, just around 310, and you are very intentional about all of your conversations, even towards me. Hey, you want this thing, what can you start with? What can you start with? What can you start with? And I think that is such an exciting conversation. And I'm hoping that our people or anybody coming across this will be affirmed in the idea of a small start that can go a long way.
Yes.
And I feel like that's probably the, cornerstone of what you do with people. I would say, as I always do, that the reason I love Jen McMahon being such an integral part of our place is that's what we do inside of the gym. Like we know, we build people from where they're at, and we're like, what's the first thing where we can have impact? So let's talk about that. Let's talk about habits. I know we have like a couple of examples. I would love to give examples to people. Those, I think, even if it's us talking about what we've seen, they're testimonies still. And so I've got one or two from my own life, but I've got examples from people who are in my life. And I'd love for you to give some examples of that too, because I think that the right person and the right example, there's just this ignition that happens. And somebody will hear that or enough of that, and they'll start to consider that for themselves. And so we want to talk about habits, places that people have started, things that you can start with, and where they can possibly lead. I think that's the potent conversation for the day. I've been talking for 3 minutes. I need to sleep. Can you just go?
All right. Thinking of examples, one that really comes to mind is, I love, first of all, thinking of like one of the best places to start is where you already know you have trouble. Like, I think people don't necessarily know what habits always they want to change, but sometimes if you really give it some thought, you can think, what are the things that I do that are not working for me? And I know someone who will remain unnamed, but is a major nighttime snacker. And so it's like a thing. I mean, dinner's done, they're reaching in the bag of chips, whatever it is. It doesn't even matter. It doesn't even always have to be bad or good or whatever. It's just a habit. And I think it's one of those things that comes along with end of the day and TV time. And so that would be an example of where to start for one person. That is not my weakness. So I mean, trust me, I do have my own. But that one is kind of an easy one, where like easy in terms of, knowing where to start. And so what other things can be done instead of grabbing for the chips or grabbing for the hummus and whatever, is just one, being intentional, realizing this is something I'd like to change. I do think it helps, we talk about this all the time, to get other people involved. Tell your friends and family, look, I don't want to be nighttime snacking, so hold me accountable, help me reach for something else. I mean, there's many things that we can be doing in the evening that are better for our sleep, like reaching for a tea, even something like that will help you calm down at night or relax. And I think that's what most people want anyway, something that's going to help them like come down from the day. Or like you've said this a million times, is basically you start to realize if you don't do the thing, you were fine. It was fine to watch that TV show without the thing of popcorn. Like it worked. It was okay. And I didn't lose anything, and the show wasn't less entertaining. And eventually I think you get to a point where you break that habit and you learn to live without that thing, and it's okay.
Yeah, that has been profound. I literally can remember the first time I kind of tested that thing out. I was in Hollywood, and I mean, I grew up like when we go to movies, man, we go to movies and we got popcorn, we got Cokes and stuff like that. And I love to go to movies by myself. And so I'm up in Hollywood. This is like 2 decades ago, but I'm trying to stay in shape. And I'm like, why do I need all this? I'm by myself. I love movies. I literally love movies. I'm not here. Like, I understand that popcorn and Cokes and snacks, like that's part of the experience, but that's not what I love. What I love is this movie. So I got one tiny, like the slimmest candy bar like thing ever. And I ate like one square of it just to see, would I be so greatly disappointed? And sure enough, I can remember the movie. I can remember where I was, and I was like, I had a blast. I love this movie, and it wasn't that bad. And so when we do Live Fit, we kind of talk about dares. Like we would dare ourselves. What could we dare ourselves to do this week? I dare me to not eat cereal 5 times a week or whatever that is. Right. You know what I mean? Could I just, what if I just like cut it down to 2? Like if I had that habit every day, right? Or just cut that down, or just, would my life be really deprived from that? Or what if I finish the day without ice cream? Or instead of 6 beers, what if I had 1? Or whatever that is. And so, I frame that as a dare to be, how bad would this really be? And it's not. It's so often I'm like, not that bad. And I feel better about myself. And I think I could do this again. It's not that I'll never have popcorn and Coke again.
Sure. I think that's the important piece too, is not telling yourself this was the last time I was ever going to have popcorn. I think you have to be realistic and knowing that, this doesn't mean forever with a nighttime snack. It doesn't mean you're a bad person if you eat at night. It doesn't mean you're a bad person if you have a popcorn and Coke at a movie. I think the important thing to know is that you're just trying not to do it every day. Yeah. And you're trying to be intentional about how you manage things rather than them kind of managing you.
Yeah. I'm in the middle of that conversation with my kids. One of the things I don't want to do, like I enjoy doing stuff with my kids and eating snacks and kind of making a thing with my kids. But I am for sure during this specific time, I'm like, I got to teach them that when we hang out at night, it's not, I love them, and it's not about this. We can have fun. Like we're a blast. We can have fun without it. We can watch something without all of that extra stuff. And so currently in this time as a dad and a gym owner, that's something I'm still wrestling with. I have to say it, and I've got to teach it, and I've got to absorb the flack that I get and the misery that comes with, what do you mean we're not going to do this every single night? And it's part of a big learning curve for all of us.
Well, you know what we do in our house?
What do you do?
We often have little contests, like who can get the comfiest. like literally, like, okay, the comfiest PJs, the comfiest socks. You get the comfiest blanket you can find. And that is how we do movie night.
That's awesome.
I didn't even really think of it until just now, but that is something that is kind of non-food related, fun.
That's great. Yeah, like put the focus somewhere else, put the fun somewhere else. Yeah, I think that's a great example. It's a good thing for me to take in too. One of the examples that I love to give, I was telling you about this yesterday, is I used to train this great girl up in Hollywood, and she was so fun. She loved learning everything that I had to teach her. And one day she had just told me about her journey. She came in pretty fit. She was a Muay Thai fighter, not a professional, but loved training Muay Thai, loved fighting. So I started training her physically to be in shape for that. And she was in pretty good shape, but she told me that what happened with her, she had this big change, and it was a habit change that started this incredible arc for her. Her name's Maria, and she worked in the movie industry. She was a camera operator, I think, at the time, and she just drank Coke all day. And she said the one habit that she tried, she was like, I'm just going to stop drinking Coke or Diet Coke. And she stopped that, and that was the catalyst. So she just focused on this one thing, and that was a huge catalyst for her. And she probably has the most radical change that I have heard of, because it went from that one habit to her getting into shape, to her quitting her job to become a trainer, to her becoming this nutrition specialist. And I mean, she's incredible. Yeah. And it happened from that. And then, of course, you mentioned that was a big thing for you as well.
Yeah, I think it was like 8 years ago. I decided, like, as a New Year's resolution, I was going to quit soda. I wouldn't say I had as big of an addiction to it as it sounds like she might have, but it just sort of was something that popped up socially. Like if I would go out to lunch with coworkers, I'd get a Diet Coke. And then before I knew it, I had 3 that week. And then it was just one of those things that like I just couldn't quite shake. And so one year I just said, I'm not going to have any soda this year. And I never missed it. I haven't gone back, and it's been a long time. And I think after you mentioned that, it made me think of that book, The Power of Habit. They talk about that as kind of like a keystone habit. Mm-hmm. One habit in your life that actually can lead to other habits changing. And sometimes it's just that one thing that sort of, like you said, works as a catalyst. I've heard for others, it's like smoking. If they finally figured out how to quit smoking, there's like this aha moment behind that, and they end up being someone they didn't know they could be.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Yep. It's just an amazing thing. Another story just from my past is not a guy that we were great friends with, but he just lost tons of weight. And he said his first goal, his one habit that he was going to break, is he was not going to eat fast food. That's it. It was just not going to, he wasn't going to swing by the drive-through. It just wasn't fast food. And he lost a ton of weight. And then it really motivated him. Another example for me, this is just recent. I came back from Colorado just recently, and I told you that I was able to go up and down. When we go back to Colorado for the last 4 years or so, and every time we go back, Tanya and I hike the Manitou Incline. 2,761 steps or something like that. And the steps are not small steps, all of them. They're these giant things. It's this huge thing. And it's like over a mile high that we're doing this. And so I look like an 88-year-old man going up this thing. It's so crazy how long it takes us without oxygen. But this year, it was still hard, but I felt better than ever. It was for sure. And you know that I've been in the gym in the last 6 months, and there's been things that have been going wrong with my shoulder and my hip and my back. And like all of this is like COVID aftermath of so much sitting around. But why then was this the best year for me? And I knew it was one thing. It was one habit that I put on. It was a big goal for me, but your noon class. I signed up. I put it on my calendar, and you can't touch it on my calendar. I go every Monday to Jen's noon class. And because that was there, I was compelled to, when I got the opportunity in Will's coaching, now I'm at Will's 9 a.m. class. And then that would fuel another day. And I just went back in December in better shape. And we had a challenge, we did the crucible. So, having an excuse to train also helped me, but for sure, signing up and making one class. It's not 3 classes every week. It's one, but it's on Monday and it starts my week. That Monday appointment has been huge for me. And that's I'm living in that habit, in that example right now. And it's so alive for me. I was like, I got to tell people about this. And it was so fun to see some fruit from that. How about you? Anything else?
Huge. Oh my gosh. I mean, I think what you said about the class, but also the fast food, I think that resonates with people because I think in people's mind, they have to do 100 things.
Yes.
And it's I think people think they have to do this cleanse and it's got to be 30 days long and it has to be perfect and I can't fall off the wagon. And then I'm going to start, then I'm going to get where I want to be. And I think I think there's a mistake in looking at things that way sometimes because unfortunately you can get to day 12 of that cleanse and blow it and then throw your hands up in the air and never have made it. And really, if you had just made one little shift, it's kind of like the domino effect and the next shift comes and the next shift comes. And it's amazing what can happen after just making one little change like that.
Yeah.
And I'm sure for that person, it wasn't necessarily easy to stop going to the fast food place, but they're intentional about it. They had a plan and they had to figure out another meal or, another snack or whatever it was that was filling. But they did that. And I think it's kind of cool when you start to learn that you can accomplish something versus when you make the goal so big, it feels hard to accomplish. So when that person was able to sort of check that one thing off the list, it was like, what else could I do? I mean, you start to see what you're capable of.
Well, we are now sitting in what I believe right now is the most potent coaching conversations that I'm having right now. I've had half a dozen, probably a dozen over the last couple of months, over the whole COVID period. This has really risen to the top. But I am talking constantly about, I don't know where I'm stealing this from, where I'm going to issue a book challenge for everybody that we either read The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg or Atomic Habits by...
someone awesome.
Dang it, I can't remember his name right now. But Tani got Atomic Habits, and you've read that before, and I'm really interested. But maybe I'm stealing this from him, but minimal dosage is the idea that I want to be talking to people about. James Clear. Oh, thanks, James Clear. I want to be talking about people about this minimal dosage thing. What is the thing that you can bear to take in? Because habits are really hard to change. And if you're an all or nothing person, you need somebody to encourage you to be like, start then. Your all needs to be small. Ooh.
Yeah.
Hey, there's my
needs to be small.
That's our new shirt. That's our new shirt, guys. Okay. Hashtag that everywhere. And all right. But the idea of that for sure is your mind and your body have a response to saying, I'm going to do this thing, and then you do it. Checking the box, whether you actually check the box. Some of us love to have an actual box and put the pen on the thing. It's so satisfying. So I know if you're listening to this and you're one of those people, you're like, it's so true, Kris. But others whether you know it or not, subconsciously or unconsciously, your brain will give you a nice little dopamine hit. And it is powerful, even if it's subtle. Like the body gives you this kind of, hey, attaboy. You know what I mean? It gives you this thing like, hey, good job. And you want to try to figure out how you can manufacture that. And you do that with minimal dosage. And so what was my minimal dosage? My minimal dosage was Monday's noon class with Coach Jen. And the fact that I said it, like she was like, let's put it on your calendar. I was like, oh, yes, that sounds like a great idea, Jen. And so, but we put it on the calendar, and because it was real on the calendar, it made a difference. Because I'm terrible at being like, I'm going to that noon class, but then somebody says, hey, do you want to meet or do you want to do something? And, so the minimal dosage. And then sure enough, this last Monday, it was 2 days ago, Jen, at 7:30. I would not say that I had a good day, people. There was enough things that went on inside of that day that was not that awesome. But at 7:30 at night, I was sitting in my car sending one last email before I go in and see my kids, and I was literally kind of warm by the fact that I did a workout that day and I got it done. And I recognized it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, I can't believe that that's still valuable and important to me at 7:30. It was hours, earlier that I did that. So it's real. So we're trying to find that with people. Okay, so what do people do? Now, we're going to land this plane here. We've talked about habits. We've talked about things like minimal dosage. We talked about the idea that if you do one thing, that it could lead to another thing. And we need one thing anyway. You know what I mean? Like we need something to celebrate. And I already forgot. What was that thing I said that rhymed? Make your all small?
I wrote it. Hashtag your all needs to be small.
Your all, if you're an all or nothing,
I think
right?
that really has to be in context to understand.
Yeah. You got to listen to this whole thing first.
You're gonna have to.
But especially, right, if you're a person that's like, I got to go big, to make this happen. We've seen over and over again that is trouble. And so let's flip that over. So Coach Jen, health coach extraordinaire, where do people start right now? And should they start right now? It's December. What day? It's December 16th.
16th. You can always start now. I think starting now is always great. And what's awesome about starting now is tomorrow you'll be glad you already started. But I think what's probably the first step is identifying something that needs a change. And maybe it isn't the biggest thing that you can think of. Maybe it is the simplest thing you can think of. Maybe it is that soda. Maybe it is a nighttime snack. Maybe it's a drink. People are drinking more now from what I understand. I don't know what that thing is for you, but I would say most people listening could probably identify one or two for themselves. And if you can't, ask someone you live with. They probably can identify one for you because sometimes we're not even aware of our habits.
Tell them to be nice. Tell them to be nice when they tell you, or you're going to spin out of control and go eat the cookies anyway. You're going to cope with how they talk to you. You're like, okay.
Yeah. But I think the first thing is identifying the thing. What is that thing? And then identifying what might you do instead?
Yeah.
Right. If it's a nighttime snack, what might you do instead? Or how can you be intentional to not do that thing? I like your example of putting something on the calendar. So if it's a calendar thing, booking it, that is super important. Making time for something is basically what that is. Prioritizing it, making it super important. So figuring out what your obstacle is going to be for doing that thing and start pulling down obstacles for that one thing.
I really like the low-hanging fruit. We say that all the time in the office because you want to set yourself up for a win. So it's got to be a real thing that you're like, what is that doing in my life? And we want to get it out there, but set yourself up for the win so that you can be like, okay, there's some momentum here. If it's a really difficult thing that is very unlikely to repeat, it's likely setting yourself up for a fail. And So what did you just hear or think? You looked up and to the left. Did you hear something or think something?
I saw my daughter dancing over here.
Unbelievable.
She's anyway.
That's great.
I was just going to say, though, it doesn't always have to be something that you're taking out of your life. It could be something that you're adding, like your workout. That was something you added.
Yeah.
If you want to be drinking more water, if you want to be, taking your vitamins, your supplements, whatever those things are, figuring out ways to add those things appropriately and doing them regularly. This thing doesn't have to be like earth shattering. It just has to be something you can repeat.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Any final things that you'd like to say to the world who, if somebody's watching this right now, it's because especially if they're watching this thing 30 minutes in with us, they need it, right?
Yeah.
Like we're magnanimous.
We're
magnanimous and fun for sure. I mean, my mom probably shut it off by now, but if they're still watching it, no. But you're in. You're like, I need anything right now. So what do you give? You got anything for people who are still hanging on?
Oh yeah. Well, tell us. I want to know what the thing is that you want to change. Tell me. Tell Kris. Tell somebody at your next class. But I mean, doing things together is always better, for sure. Well, now I have my own rhyme.
So good. That is true. And also, one of the great things about what you do that I love what you do. Health coaching is this great. We're going to do another podcast on what is health coaching and why it's so valuable now. Oh gosh, it's so valuable now. But one of the great things is that if somebody wanted to ask you a question, they can do it from anywhere in the country. They can dial up Jen McMahon, and we will leave a link for Jen McMahon and how to get a hold of her for health coaching and questions. And she does a free, is it a half hour or whatever it is? Hour, I don't know what it is.
An hour.
Yeah, free hour with her, and she'll have you fill out something. She gives you value right away with her big goal is to be like, whatever you're in for, I'm going to give you value. And so if you are hanging on and you need somebody to talk to another human. That's what we do. Coaching. And Jen is a genius with habits and talking through people at this very time. So,
shucks. Thanks.
Okay. Well, this is the 310 QuickPod. Thank you guys so much. If you're still hanging on watching this whole thing, we love you.
Thank you.
Send it to anybody that is having any problems. Like we really want to be a help to people, and we love our jobs. We love the opportunity to be a help to someone. So if you know somebody who needs some help or needs some encouragement, please send it to them. And if you are interested in reaching out to us for some more encouragement or some more questions or help, please do so. And we'll leave links below. And that's it. Thank you guys so much.
Thanks so much.
Thank you, Jen McMahon. Ow!